It's easy to get caught up in wanting everything to be sunshine and rainbows. No pain, no suffering, all joy. All frolicking through flowers and getting good news, getting promoted, finding a new friend, falling into a beautifully matched relationship. The fact of the matter is, though, that our reality of life on Earth boils down to duality. Light and dark, night and day, water and fire, good and bad, happy and sad. I know this sounds like such a basic thing to talk about, but for me, having to really sit with what duality means in life has changed my entire perspective on what happens around me, what I personally go through, the people I have in my life, and the way I view myself. This video is a visual exploration of what it means to accept the duality of life, how it can change the way you view everything, and some of the realizations I've come to since understanding this. Duality, by definition, is the state of combining two different things, or the quality or state of having two different or opposite parts or elements. The duality I'm discussing is the simple idea that everything has an opposite, and together, both of those opposites create the world or reality we live in. And to take it a step further, there cannot be one without the other. Cannot be peace without war, happiness without sadness. You get the point. Which I think at first sounds self-explanatory, but when you really think about it, you realize how the idea of this eludes so many of us. We dream of a utopian future, but fail to acknowledge that there must be discord, disagreement, upheaval to get to peace. That the idea of utopia cannot exist because we would fail to recognize it without the shadow of dystopia. We want to feel good, to do things that make us happy. We want to be happy. But then we realize that happiness has to be fleeting because without sadness, we'd never be able to experience the high that is the opposite. We want our world to get better, to be better, but we don't want to suffer for it. But that's unrealistic. There must be a crumbling of what is before to get to the rebirth of what can be. Like the sun and moon, we find balance between the two extremes. This is not to say everything is black and white, because if you think about yin and yang, perhaps my best example of duality, you understand that both are opposites, but two faces of the same coin. Two pieces of the same whole. Funny enough, this kind of frees you from a lot of black and white thinking. Understanding life like this allowed me to realize that there is so much more that exists in the in-between. So many people that are both good and bad in their own ways. Things that are good and bad in their own ways. Shadow and light, sun and moon. Understanding that every action is good for someone and bad for someone else, it's inevitable. Even knowing that I must have bad days because I will have good days and it will always be that way. For me, it opened my mind up to see a little bit more of the good in things that are seemingly or stereotypically bad, and when needed, sometimes see more of the potential bad in things that are seemingly good. It's allowed me to temper my idea of my impact and intention with myself, others, and the greater world. Studying astrology has helped me a lot with this too. There is an ancient Hermetic text called the Emerald Tablet, and it includes a very popular phrase that I'm sure a lot of you have heard before, and it's as above, so below. And that is the foundation, really, of our understanding of astrology on so many levels, both traditional and modern. It's allowed me to see the foiling of things, to see the opposing forces at work and understand that it's all somehow coming together to make a whole. How our cosmos are so interdependent, not codependent, but interdependent. It's a beautiful thing. And astrology has really allowed me to reframe the way in which I see the duality of life, and understanding that, just like in life events, in your birth chart, there are good so-called good placements and so-called bad placements. And even then, that's all arbitrary, because they all really take on a meaning depending on the context of the rest of your life. And I think that's what's so beautiful. That's the beauty that you get to when you start to think about the duality of life. You start to understand that it's all so beautiful because it's all a part of the same thing. It's one half of a whole. And I think that just has made me really grateful and ponder my existence and the way that I treat others and the way that I treat myself in a different way. And it's allowed me to take off a lot of pressure, honestly, off of both myself and off of others, off of my loved ones, off of my friends, off of my lovers, off of just everyone. I think it has fundamentally altered my perspective for the better. I hope that thinking of this, even just pondering it for a bit, whether or not you believe it to be true, sparks something in your brain, makes you want to explore more, makes you curious. I hope wherever you are, whatever you're going through, that you know that the opposite is true. And because of that, you can make it through. We can all make it through. That's, I think, the reassuring part more than anything. And also, in that same vein, I hope you give yourself a little more grace for having to balance what it is to be a human, for having to navigate this life in the ways that we're forced to. And I hope that maybe tonight you can write in your journal about what duality means to you, about how you see good and bad, light and dark, and the ways in which that you are comprised of so many opposites that make up who we all are. I'll talk to you soon.